we know exactly what we're going to be building, it's time to dive in. So the first thing you're going to need is a brand new WordPress installation, or not necessarily brand new, but in our case, we're going to use a brand new WordPress install right here in my local environment. You don't have to do this locally if you prefer not to for some reason. But if you do want to do it locally, there are, and you're not sure how, there are a number of resources on YouTube and just by searching Google that you can find that will lead you in the right direction for that. There's a few popular ones. There's MAMP. If you search MAMP, M-A-M-P, that's a really popular one. If you've done no WordPress development and you just want to get something to quickly get up and going, MAMP is very popular. There's also Desktop Server, which I believe is a paid app. I think it's $99, but it's a great program as well. I personally use Vagrant and with VVV and then variable vagrants add-ons, and I've really enjoyed that, but it's really kind of overkill if you're just developing by yourself, but you totally can do it. Also, I actually have recently migrated to Calabox, which is an app associated with Pantheon, who is a WordPress host. So I've been doing a little bit of development on Pantheon. I really like their platform. Anyway, that's a rabbit trail. Either way, you're going to need a brand new WordPress installation. Once you have that, you should land on a screen that looks something like this. And now half the work is done. So if you're running WordPress 4.7, which you can know pretty quickly if you're on your dashboard and you're viewing this at a glance panel, you'll see your WordPress version right here. If you're running at least 4.7, then you are good to go, and you already have the content endpoints for the REST API integrated into your WordPress installation. If you are running under less than 4.7 for some reason, you'll need to go to plugins and add new, and you'll want to install the WordPress REST API plugin. So you'll go to search and WordPress REST API. Now this is really important. If you are having to install this, make sure you get V2 version 2. Sometimes the old version comes up, which I'm not seeing it right now. Maybe they finally removed it, but make sure you get version 2 and you'll install that. I'm not going to install it because I have 4.7 already, but you will need that if you don't have WordPress 4.7. Or you can simply just update, since it's a new install. It shouldn't break anything if it's a brand new installation. But if for some reason you just have to keep it below 4.7 and you still want to try this video out, be sure to install that plugin or you won't be able to do anything else in this tutorial. So now that we have that, we are going to do a quick sanity check. And I'm going to fire up Postman. You can do this in Terminal with curl. You can do this with, I know there's a number of tools that let you kind of test an API out. I like Postman, so that's what I'm going to use here. So first things first, if you go to your site /wp-json and you just send a normal GET request there, it's actually going to reply back with all of the routes and some other data about the API itself. So you can always look through that. But just to do a sanity check, that's basically our sanity check is, did we get some JSON back? So we did, so the API is working just fine. If you didn't get this back, then make sure that you're on 4.7, and then if you are, make sure that maybe for some reason your host hasn't disabled that, or which was really unlikely, or that maybe you didn't accidentally install a plugin that turns it off, because there actually are plugins that disable the API. But probably 99% of you are, or 100% of you are going to see some JSON if you're on 4.7 and you send a GET request to the right route.